Hey, what's going on guys? Frosty here, and today I'm going to show you guys my completed Titan Arc 3.0 Thunderclap melee build that I think you'll all really enjoy. So with the arrival of Arc 3.0, Titan's got a new melee ability called Thunderclap. This is a chargeable melee ability. The longer you hold it down, the more damage you do when you release it on a nearby enemy. And not only is this melee ability cracked on its own, you can also run things like Knockout, which is the aspect along with this subclass, and it also stacks with elemental well mods as well as certain exotics like Wormgod Caress or Syntheseps. So basically this is a melee chaining build where you want to ramp up as much damage as possible, and then once you're fully stacked up you want to go ahead and orientate yourself in close proximity and use your new Thunderclap melee ability to do devastating amounts of damage. And the crazy thing is you can do more damage with a single Thunderclap melee ability than you can with a Caress of the Falling Star Thunder Crash Super, which is just absolutely insane to think about. So the only catch or downside with this build is you need to be mechanically sound with it in order to get that maximum damage threshold with it. And on top of that, you also need to have good mobility because you need to maneuver the map quickly in order to chain melee kills. Moving into the subclass now, you can use whatever super you want here. For the abilities, I like to use the Towering Barricade, Catapult Lift. Obviously, you want to make sure you have your Thunderclap melee ability on here. And lastly, you can use whatever grenade you want. Personally, I like pulse grenades. So for the first aspect here, you want to run Juggernaut. So it says with full class ability energy and after sprinting for a short time, you gain a frontal shield that blocks incoming damage. When the frontal shield breaks, your class ability energy is depleted, aka our Towering Barricade. But it also says while amplified, the shield blocks significantly more damage before breaking. This is excellent for survivability because we're going to be running around the map trying to chain melee kills. And for the second aspect, we're running Knockout here. This is a must-have. So it says critically wounding a target or breaking their shields infuses your melee attacks with arc energy and increases your melee range and damage for a short time. Defeating targets with melee attacks starts health regeneration and makes you amplified. This is our primary source for becoming amplified, and also that health regeneration upon getting a melee kill is really nice. For the first fragment here, I would recommend Spark of Resistance. It says while surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. Because we're a melee build, we're always surrounded by combatants, therefore we're always getting that extra resistance, which is nice. You also get 10 strength, which is good for the melee ability. And also as a little side note here, basically ever since the launch of Season 18 till the current making of this video, resistance on Warlocks and Titans with Arc 3.0 is bugged for whatever reason. Bungie is aware of this and they are trying to patch it. However, if you get 100 resilience on this build and you go ahead and equip this fragment and you feel squishy, just know it's because it's bugged and Bungie will fix it soon. However, once this is fixed, running 100 resilience and this fragment with this build will make you feel like an absolute god. Next up, we're running Spark of Feedback. So it says taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, which is absolutely perfect. You also get 10 resilience for this, which literally couldn't be better. And lastly, I'm using Spark of Volts here. It says finishers make you amplified. This is nice because this is an alternative way to become amplified other than Knockout. You also get 10 recovery for this, which is really good. As far as weapons go with this build, I would recommend a good 1-2 punch shotgun. For me personally, I've been using a Wastelander, which you can find from Dares of Eternity, or turning in keys at Sir's Treasure Trove. If you can't get your hands on that, I would recommend farming the Grasp of Avarice dungeon for a decent Matador. And for anybody who may not know, 1-2 punch is a shotgun trait where it says hitting an enemy with every pellet in a shot increases melee damage for a short duration. This is really good because this stacks on top of all of our other sources of melee damage. In the energy slot, I'm using the Trinity Ghoul combat bow strictly for ad clearing capabilities. If you don't know, it basically is one of the best ad clearing weapons in the entire game. It's right up there with Risk Runner in my opinion, and this is a must-have weapon for Arc 3.0. If you get the catalyst for it, you don't even need to get precision kills in order to proc Lightning Rod, which is extremely OP. And you can even utilize a fragment that is actually glitched out with this weapon and actually use this to blind enemies in the meantime until Bungie patches that. And lastly, in the heavy slot, doing some good boss deeps, I have the Hothead Adeptive Rocket Launcher, and I hope to farm one of these late last season before it went out of the Nightfall playlist. I have one with field prep and tracking as well as Vorpal. I would recommend slapping a boss spec or a big adept ones if you have it. And also, I would recommend keeping this on your characters as this is a really good Arc 3.0 rocket launcher, especially if somebody is also running Galahorn, giving you Wolfpack rounds with this thing. This is absolutely nasty. Moving on to the armor mods, on the helmet I have it set to the Arc Affinity and I'm using Hands On, so melee kills feed us extra super energy. Pretty self-explanatory. This mod is literally feeding us our super faster than 100 intellect. I'm using Harmonic Siphon as well, so in this case our Trinity Ghoul and Hothead Rocket Launcher can now get us Orbs of Power if we get multi-kills with them. And lastly, I'm using Well of Ions, so picking up an Arc Elemental Well causes my next melee to deal increased damage. For the gauntlets and exotic of choice, I'm using Wormgod Caress, and the only mod on this that matters is Melee Wellmaker. It's a universal mod, so it doesn't matter, you just want to free up at least 4 energy for that. And the nice thing about Wormgod Caress is it stacks up to 500% more melee damage when you have ×5 Burning Fist. The downside is it only lasts for 5 seconds, but if you know how to maneuver the map, you can chain kills and do insane amounts of damage with this. On the chest piece, I'm using 2 seasonal artifact res mods that are giving me solar and arc resistance, as well as elemental charge, which allows me to become charged with light by picking up an elemental well. On the boots, I am running absolution and invigoration. This just basically allows me to get all my abilities, and specifically my melee ability with invigoration, back quickly. I'm also using taking charge, so picking up those orbs of power also allows me to become charged with light. And lastly, on the class item, I'm using outreach, 1-2 finisher, and high energy fire. I like 1-2 finisher, it pairs well with our fragments, so when we finish an enemy we become amplified, and also with this mod we get our melee ability back. And I'm also using high energy fire. You could swap this out for Phantom Might. In my opinion though, I would recommend high energy fire if you want to save up some good extra damage for boss DPS. So overall, I feel like this build performs really well and covers all areas nicely. So we're stacking melee damage with a 1-2 punch shotgun for close quarters, using Trinity Ghoul for ad clearing, and have a hothead for boss DPS. If you don't want to use that, I would recommend a good linear fusion rifle. And if you want to stack max melee damage, you want to drop Trinity Ghoul as well as hothead and put on a tractor cannon. Anyways, that is going to be a wrap on this video for me today, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you found it informational or helpful, a like on it would be greatly appreciated. And also subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Destiny 2 content like this in the future. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Until next time, stay frosty.